In 1872, when Buchtel College held its first classes, this was the site of the Buckeye Mower and Reaper Company, one of the great manufacturing establishments in the world for mowers and reapers and farm equipment. John R. Buchtel was the president of the company, and this is where he made his first fortune. This is also as good a place as any to talk about the transition that Akron had to make in 1870 from being a rural and farm community and a manufacturing center for farm equipment to the industrial behemoth that it would become in the world rubber industry in the 20th century. And I think this is also as good a place as any to talk about the transition that Akron had to make in 1970, 100 years later, when manufacturing capability had really started to dwindle. And we became a center instead for polymers, information technology, and robotics. This new knowledge economy draws workers who also are attracted to art, music, theater, and dance. For the first 100 years of its history, Akron was often characterized as a cultural wasteland. In the 19th century, there were few public entertainments in music, art, and theater. When Buchtel College opened in 1872, residents with more refined tastes began to look to the Hilltop campus for inspiration in arts and letters. Early literary activities were largely channeled through voluntary societies rather than the college itself. The Cary Literary Society for Women began in 1872. With tacit support from the school, students also formed a dramatic study club. Performances by these groups often occurred at chapel services. Speech contests were the oratorical highlight of Buchtel College. They reflected the mission of the college, classic studies, and good citizenship expressed through declamations, elocutions, and orations. The Ashton Prize endowed annual awards for many decades. The top prize to the student winner was $40. In 1873, the chapel was opened to the community for an audience that was standing room only, even though an admission of 25 cents was required. A drama, The Last Loaf, was presented to good reviews. The college established an art school in 1889. Teachers offered classes in drawing, portraiture, charcoal, and watercolor painting. Buchtel's head of the art school, Professor Van Leer, even led students on a trip to New York City to visit galleries and museums. Many of his students had come to Akron right off the farms of Ohio. The art school's reputation was enhanced by a public gallery at Old Buchtel that attracted many visitors, until the fire of 1899 wiped out the gallery and its collections. In 1902, a new art studio opened. The watercolor class, taught by Miss May Fairfield Sanford, boasted an enrollment of 50 students. In 1920, a New York gallery owner came to Akron to host an exhibit of paintings and prints. Apologizing for the city's lack of fine art, he said of the gritty, smoky rubber city, "Her wealth is so new that she has not yet had time to study art." But Akron was the fastest-growing city in the United States. A new art league was formed, headed by B.F. Goodrich Superintendent Edwin Shaw. His personal collection of art would later be gifted to the new Art Institute and form the basis of its permanent collection. The University of Akron Art Department never had a real home for much of the 20th century. After the fire at Old Buchtel, art classes were suspended. They were resumed for a while in what had been the President's House and later moved to the library annex. Today's School of Art was created after World War II with the arrival of Dr. Emily Davis, who created a solid reputation for art instruction of all types. Not until the 1960s did the first real home for the art department come into being with the opening of Schrank Hall. The current School of Art Gallery is named in honor of Dr. Davis, and the school is now named for philanthropist and Akron art aficionado Mary Myers, whose family started what is today's Myers Industries. Throughout the university's history, students studied in similar ways, trying to escape to a quiet place and a familiar corner of the library. The first campus library was located in Old Buchtel Hall and was named for General Lucius V. Bierce, who gave a large number of his books to form the nucleus of the collection in 1871. During the early days, the library contained 7,000 volumes, had no staff, and was open only 2 hours a week, 1 hour for gentlemen and 1 hour for ladies. A new Bierce library was a gift of Goodyear founder F.A. Seiberling, and part of the first Colby Hall that was opened in 1916, later relocated to a new structure on Carroll Street and then to today's present Bierce Library in the 1970s. There has always been music on the campus. A music professor is listed in the very first catalog of Buchtel College for the 1872 school year. Hymns were part of chapel services in the 1870s. In 1889, a men's glee club was formed. The first recital by students occurred in 1890, a vocalist, 5 solo piano pieces, and 2 duos with violin, presented in the Krause Gymnasium. The music school presented recitals in 1902, using the sanctuaries of nearby churches as performance venues. Classes in music were offered until 1911, when it was thought that students wanting music instruction could find it elsewhere. Buchtel students organized a band for military parades and May Day in 1900. The band became part of the music department in 1938 and performed at football games. In 1941, the university hired Darrell Witters as band director. After a wartime hiatus, there was renewed interest in the band, which counted 60 members. In 1951, the University of Akron Marching Band became known nationally for its bass drum installed inside a Goodyear tire. It was difficult to play, and it lasted just 1 year. In 1967, Richard Jacobois brought the university recognition with a new style of performance and upped the band membership to over 100. He was succeeded by Robert Jorgensen, who created one of the most highly regarded band programs in the Midwest. Today, there are 3 concert ensembles and 2 athletic bands. The 260-member marching band is known as Ohio's Pride.
Close beside Cuyahoga's water stream.
One constant that has carried over from Buchtel College to today is the school's alma mater, with music borrowed from the Cornell hymn and lyrics supplied by former university president A.B. Church. In more recent years, the university's music department has distinguished itself nationally in other ways. In 1977, Roland Paolucci joined the university faculty. He was regarded as one of the most important musical forces to cultivate jazz in Akron and Northeast Ohio. He founded the university's nationally recognized Jazz Studies program. In 1980, Professor Larry Snyder of the School of Music formed the Steel Band, one of the country's oldest and largest collegiate steel bands. In 1987, the band was one of the first ensembles of its kind from the United States to travel to Trinidad to study performance and rehearsal techniques and style from the original masters of the instrument. In the summer of 1968, amidst the chaos of 2 assassinations and protests against the Vietnam War, there was respite at the University of Akron's Memorial Hall. The ballerina Kate Firestone had come to Akron to start rehearsing young dancers, to perform new ballets in a town that had only a smattering of dance programs, mostly for little girls. A group of women, led by Kay Auburn, the wife of the university president, with Francia Albrecht, Nan Klinger, Gina Carroll, and others, invited the Chilean ballet soloist Heinz Pohl to Akron to create a new company of dancers, a chamber ballet. Pohl's partner in life and profession was the distinguished Broadway lighting designer Thomas Skelton. He urged the group to create a board of trustees to raise funds and expand the scope of the company. Following a sensational New York debut in 1976, the chamber ballet became the Ohio Ballet in residence at the University of Akron for the next 30 years. The University of Akron also hosts the National Center for Choreography, supported by the Knight Foundation, the second new center for choreography in the nation. Today, the university's academic programs in the performing arts, music, dance, theater, and arts administration, are located at Gazetta Hall. It boasts state-of-the-art dance rehearsal studios, a recording studio, a music computer center, and Center for Theater, a black box house seating up to 125 patrons. Opened in 1973, E.J. Thomas Performing Arts Hall features a floating ceiling. At full height, the hall seats 2,900 people. The movable 44-ton ceiling can close off the flying balcony or the grand tier, creating a 1, a 2, or a 3-level auditorium. It was called one of the most beautiful and flexible performance halls in the world by New York Times architectural critic Ada Louise Huxtable. For almost 50 years, E.J. Thomas Performing Arts Hall has been a mainstay of culture for the entire Akron community, in music, in theater, in dance, and community events.